Have you ever thought to yourself, how many layers of myself would I need to shed until I get to the heart and soul of the matter? The heart and soul of me. The audacity of a changed mind. You don't know the grace of God until you've hit a breaking point. I know you've all had those moments, those trials, those times where you feel like you need to just exhale. Sometimes you don't even have the tools to be able to pull yourself out. You're looking to someone or something to guide you. I cannot tell you how many breaking points I've had, but what I can tell you is that they have allowed me to reinvent myself in more ways than one. And somehow I've been able to come out stronger on the other side. I'm extremely passionate about solo travel. To marry this with our conversation, quite frankly, I wouldn't know where I'd be if it wasn't for solo travel. It's helped me through many breaking points, near-death experiences, heartbreak, loss of loved ones. I've been through it. You've been through it. As humans, we're going to continue to go through it. Solo travel has shifted my entire framework. I probably wouldn't even be the person that I am today had it not been for my decision to start taking control of my life and traveling for myself. I'm going to touch upon a subject that I know many women in particular love to talk about. I'm sure some men too. And it is that of relationships. Be it romantic or platonic, we've all had relationships that have had their ups and their downs. Personally, I had been in a long-term relationship with someone that I loved very deeply. We were together for 8.5 years. And it was a time in which I identified myself in particular through my relationship. I only knew myself through him. We were having the time of our lives. You know, when you're young and in love, you're bright-eyed, you're bushy-tailed, you're seeing all the butterflies and roses and hearts. You think it's you and this person against the world. It's forever. Your ride or dies. And that's great. It's phenomenal. That is until it isn't. That is until it falls apart. And it's not to say that every situation like that falls apart. But in my case, it did. Myself and my partner had broken up, and I was left with fragmented pieces of myself because I had grown to identify myself only through that relationship. So now I was between a rock and a hard place. I honestly didn't know what to do. I'm alone. I'm having to figure out how to be independent. I'm having to figure out how to grow into this new version of a woman that I now have to be. No one knew what I was going through, not my friends, not my family. I was basically self-healing or trying to figure out how to self-heal. And as most women in this particular situation, we usually have three options. We either cut our hair, we travel, or we go back to school. I did two of the latter. I was very much deciding that it was time that I pursue higher education. I wanted to change in career paths. I enrolled in a master's program at NYU College of Dentistry. I was doing great in that program. While I was pursuing my master's, I decided that I wanted to try to travel solo because I had only known travel through partnership. with my last partner. We were Bonnie and Clyde when we traveled together. Everything was us. And so I was reaching a new chapter in my life in which I had to figure out how to create the rules for myself. I did some research on this school in Sri Lanka that was established by a British couple, and they were looking for volunteer teachers to teach English to some of the students at this school. Now, just to provide some background, the school was located in Nuwara, which is in the northern part of Sri Lanka. And the students were the children of the tea pluckers. If you're familiar with Ceylon and Lipton tea, the tea pluckers are the women that are responsible for plucking the tea leaves that give you those delicious teas. However, within their community, it is expected that their children continue the plantation life and cycle that they themselves had been born into. And so this British couple established this school in order to provide an opportunity for the students to not only be able to learn English, but to have better work opportunities in Sri Lanka. So I reached out to them asking if I could volunteer. I was going to be their first American volunteer. Now, I had never been to Sri Lanka before, and I was fresh out of my breakup. I thought to myself, what are you doing? You are at your lowest point. Do you think you really need to be traveling right now? How about we just focus on school? But I'm stubborn. And I thought, no, I want to do this. I'm going to do this. I want to challenge myself. I need to do this. So I booked my flight and I went to Sri Lanka and I spent a week there at the school. One of the best ways that you can really shift your mind frame is to think to yourself, how can I be of greater service to others? Because in actuality, the only reason why we are even on this earth is to be of service to others. And if you're not doing that in some way, shape, or form, you're merely existing. So while I was in Sri Lanka, I met with fabulous teachers at the school. And part of my job was to not only teach English to the students, but I was also a sort of mentor to them. I would be assigned a few students each day of the week, and we would speak about their home conditions, their goals, their aspirations. I saw many students daily, but I remembered very clearly there was one young woman in particular who was coming from a rather difficult situation. She was about 19 years old. She was a teen mom. She had a 4-year-old son at the time. And the teachers explained to me that she had a very rough start to the school year and she had a lot of difficulty learning in school. When I sat down with this young woman, it was a beautiful, bright, sunny day, and we're sitting in the fields, and she's facing me. And I asked her to tell me her story. Because one thing that I can say is that the beauty of life is that each and every person that you walk by, that you encounter, whether you speak or you don't speak to them, they have a story. And sometimes people are just looking for someone to listen to their story. So I sat with her and I asked this young woman to tell me her story. She explained to me that she had been in a relationship with a young man. They were engaged to be married. She had gotten pregnant, given birth, and then this young man abandoned her because it was looked down upon to be a young single mother in this community in Sri Lanka. She was basically isolated. She was sheltered within her home and hadn't left in roughly 4 years until one of her friends encouraged her to consider attending this school, learning some English to see if maybe that would help not only herself, but her son and the rest of her family. As she spoke to me, she said that her particular situation left her feeling extremely broken. She said, "Miss, our society It's not like yours in the Western world. It has been very hard for me. I felt worthless. I felt like I'm not worthy of love, that I'm not beautiful. I'll never be successful, and I won't excel. And she even said to me she had considered ending her life. I'm looking at this young woman while she's uttering all these words to me, and I'm thinking, how do I show her the beauty that I'm seeing in her, facing her? How do I take myself out of my own personal situation, my own personal breakup, my own personal trials, and pour whatever I have left in my cup into her? Because in that very moment, speaking to her, being face to face with her, I was facing myself, because that was exactly what I thought of myself at the time. And so I said to her, look around you. There is beauty all around you. You will be loved. You are loved. You are needed. You will be successful. Sometimes we need those words of affirmation. We need reassurance. And yeah, you may not encounter someone who'll be able to say those words to you. Sometimes you need to be able to find a way to motivate yourself. But during the moments where you do encounter people who can change your life or say the words that you need, that you are dying to hear, take it, embrace it. I graduated from my master's program a couple years later, and then I attended pharmacy school and graduated from that program as well. I remembered making a posting about that on social media and thanking everyone who had supported me throughout the way. During that time, I received an anonymous message from a young woman. And I say it was a young woman because it was this young woman in particular who I'd mentored at that school in Sri Lanka. She messaged me and she said, Miss, I hope you remember me. I've been watching your travels all these years, ever since you left Sri Lanka. And I wanted you to know that our one-on-ones changed my life. Just as you went on to pursue higher education, because of you, I did as well. And I'm now a professor at one of the universities in Sri Lanka. That message alone nearly broke me for the good. Because you realize in that moment just how powerful we are as human beings and just how connected we are as human beings. I cannot begin to tell you how happy I was and how much my heart was filled with joy, because in that moment, I realized the importance of being able to turn your pain into power. When you're able to successfully do that, there is nothing that can stop you. The art of self-reinvention. Human beings are honestly some of the most adaptive creatures on this planet. With each new obstacle we face, we're often put on our toes to quickly figure out a resolution, quickly figure out a solve for the issues that we have. And I think that's one of the features and characteristics that we have that make us so incredible. When I think about myself in my teens, in my 20s, and even in my 30s, I'm often amazed by the changes that I have gone through, because when I look back at the person that I was 10 years ago, it's mind-blowing to me that I could have become the person that I am today. And I think this rings true for almost every single person. You don't know what you're truly capable of until you are placed in a situation where you have no choice but to figure out how to survive, how to sustain yourself despite circumstance. Recently, I came back from a trip to Senegal, southern region of Senegal in particular. I was staying in this location called Abene. I had actually done quite a bit of research on this Airbnb that was owned by this couple, a Senegalese woman and her husband, who happened to be British. And the reason why I happened to stay at this place was because this hotel had had quite a bit of traction some years ago. The husband, in particular, had written a book about his experience being practically a nomad throughout Africa, landing in Senegal, meeting his wife, falling in love, starting a family with her, and buying this plot of land and building out this Airbnb. And it was very much community based. Everyone was involved in the project. They had gained quite a bit of rapport, and especially through the social media. And so I landed upon this particular place and I thought, wow, I'd love to support this business. Unfortunately, this woman had lost her husband back in 2017. He had actually passed away in a car accident. Yet, despite this, I thought to myself, you know what? This property now belongs to a woman. It now belongs to a Black woman. And I really want to support. I got to really connect with this woman over the course of 3 to 4 days. And as I had mentioned previously, I think one thing that I have learned to really appreciate is to stop and listen to people. Everyone needs someone to just listen to their story. Not everyone has the opportunity to share their story, but when they do, it means something. It's impactful. And so I spent a few days with her, and she explained to me her trials, now being a single mother, raising two boys, being responsible for this large property in Senegal, and trying to figure out how to sustain it, essentially. I'm looking at this woman thinking, what an incredible human being to have to go from being in a marriage, being loved, encountering someone who's invested in you, you've invested in them, you've built with them, and it all comes to a crashing halt. And you don't know what to do, but you need to figure out something quickly. It's remarkable when you sit back and you see people that have had experiences similar to that. Life is going to throw curveballs at you, and some of them will be beyond your control. And when you think about it, when you think about how you have to adapt in the moment, at first it's hard because I think every individual is in some capacity afraid of change. Change is scary. You're used to doing your everyday, you're used to your routine, you're used to things going according to plan by what you've known for the longest period of time. And so when that routine sort of comes to a stop, when everything that you know, everything that is the norm to you has now changed, it's it's almost mind-blowing in a sense. Sometimes I even look at myself in the mirror and I go, wow. It's hard to believe that I am this person that I am today, because had you asked me that I would be where I am today 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I would have thought you were crazy. I mean, the things that personally I have gone through, it's hard to imagine that I'd be sitting here on this podcast speaking to you. Yet everything is a learning process. You're not always going to have the answers to everything. You have to be willing to find yourself backed up against a wall and being forced to learn a whole new set of rules, being forced to learn maybe a whole new language, and then trying to survive. But that is the beauty of life, because we never stop learning. And the day you stop learning, your life comes to a standstill. We are meant to continue to flourish, to challenge ourselves in more ways than one. That is what makes us such dynamic creatures. Learning is an indefinite process. You never stop learning at any particular age. You never stop growing, because there is so much to life that you will discover with each and every new level. Which is why I think it's also important to be able to show grace to people despite their circumstance. It's easy for us to cast judgment on things that we do not know, that we are unfamiliar with, that has not been part of our norm. You look on the outside and you think, that couldn't be me. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do that. But what if you had no choice? Put yourself in that person's shoes and think about the resources that are at your disposal, the resources that you only have to use in that moment in time. Could you still say the same thing? We are so versatile, and to watch us learn to change, accept change, become better versions of ourselves, this is what makes us phenomenal as human beings. This conversation has allowed me to see how the most intangible aspects to travel allows us to feel so much more connected to others globally. As humans, we go through similar experiences that change us and shift our view of the world and how we present to the world. I would love to hear your perspective on this. Feel free to join my mailing list and send me an email telling me about your personal experience. And if you'd like to support this show, write me a review. It helps to spread the word and spread the love. See you next time.